The following is my view of an opinion on how much the world is a effect of living in a pursuit of happiness. I go into detail to proclaim allegory of Little Red Riding Hood. How could she mistaken her grandmother for a wolf? Well, this, my friend, is a allegory of how climate change could have as many camouflages incognito to be a supply chain in disguise or by design if you're corrupt. My words are limited because I'm trying to avoid censors. So enjoy. It's so funny how in Alice in Wonderland everyone was painting the leaves or the roses red. It was just as though you have like this food coloring that you'd have to be putting into all these plants because they're so full of like this genetically modified substance in order to give them a backbone. And so when growing something that is infertile, it needs like extra strongholds. At what time does a baby get its lungs full up with air, given the fact that it's inside of a water within the womb? And then how much does that apply to its blood type getting chosen? At what point does it have a definite structure of a blood type? And how much does that have an interplay with its lungs being filled with air for the first time? Finds an air pocket underwater, doesn't it? And there's oxygen inside of your blood. Now, these questions about fetuses and gaining life and the structure about it is obviously done with a binary coding process, because all your cells are having a program within their center core of where to go, how to align, very much as a program being executed before it has a chance of being canceled. The process of how land is handled, if it's of an occurrence, when there's an inferno needing to be burned out, it could also be as seen as the earth being a baby, like born. So if that's what's being handled, and the process of being assured, a mountain turning into a volcano has a process under it with hot magma, but at what point would it cavity to channel outwards? I've heard a rumor of a room having the ability to have a voice box, using all the stuff within it to have a negative pressure almost as a whistle, but of calculation so well to form verbal words. So if you're gonna have this whistle construct, it would be easier indoors and more impressive if it was just used outdoors on a mountain. In either case is the same of an execution properly done, but with air instead of cells. The spectacle of opposites when it's an inanimate object that should not be moving, but then it actually starts to. It could be like the charcoal snakes, those black pellets when you light them and the heat rises, so this charcoal snake starts growing upwards, and then a Mexican jumping bean. I don't know how they're initiated, but you would never suspect a bean to start hopping around as much as it does. Back to Cain and Abel, it's where Cain led in Abel in a place where it was familiar, so it was just well known because he knew where the farm was. So these bright lights behind me would be as though a perfect allegory for the farmland. And then the cop behind the gahop with the flashing lights, he's like Cain because he's hiding behind the flashy lights. So he's ready to strike like Cain. So there's the flashy lights, and then the guy ready for the sting op. And if there was the sting op, there would be the third person, even more hidden than the second. Actually, that's 4 comparisons. So then that's great within square roots. There's actually 4 answers, but 2 of them aren't said because it's just goes without saying. So, invoke the square root system, and there should be nothing short of the wrong answer being hard pressed. And so in the backside, if you're doing bad at it, the bottom will drop out, and then you have 2 open ends. And that's like a square that's got 2 sides missing. You're still able to bounce stuff off of it, but it's gonna go haywire once it starts propagating from it outward. Okay, so getting a backlash from the supply chain, despite being essential or non-essential, let's put that aside for just a minute here. So when there's an idea of a unit being fabricated, what exactly would that mean? Well, I'd first like the pretext of old-fashioned being outdated for new age, what have you. So if you're gonna go ahead and have yourself a rainbow, what better to have as to kick off the month of the rainbow? And the closer you look into the changing of one color to another, if like you zoom in that with your own eyes, you'd be hard pressed to find the median middle distance between the 2 colors, because the closer you get, the further it's gonna exchange rate the air between it, and so it would be perforated different. So that's a conundrum where you can never find, the gold at the end of the rainbow, where you can never separate the colors of the rainbow to get a precise reading of the middle of the 2. The same can be said with black body radiation, how there's never a perfect one. If you don't know yet, you've got yourself 2 eyes that are looking at things while light is bouncing off them into your retina. This is how light dances and things are red. And then the reason I mention this is that if there was a perfect black body, you would be looking at it and there would be no light bouncing off it into your eyes. But that can never occur. And there is some reason for there's like an ultraviolet light catastrophe where science just wasn't fixed right, and it turned out they fixed it, and that it's that the result from it, there's no such thing as a perfect black body. Similarly, there's no such thing as a random number generator that is perfect. And these are 2 good newses, because in spectroscopy, this will bring it full circle. There's a difference of every single chemical, and it has lit up a significant fingerprint of it with being different colors of the rainbow. This is an entire branch, one that a board can't even fabricate a unit thereon in, is that there's a definite amount of lights lit up, but they're kind of like darker to suggest that the difference can be exchanged about them. But there's no denying the evidence of which lights are lit and which ones are dark. And so there's a definite measurement when it comes to reading how much things are actually inside of a given subset, and that's hard pressing units because you can excite the environment around them to change it, but the going rate would there be